Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Deva Maheshwaraha Guru Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Yo Nityamachyudavadam Bhujegmarukma Vyamo Hatastadarani Trinaya Mene Asmadguroh Bhagavato Siddhaik Sindhoh Ramanujasya Charanau Sharanam Prabadhe Yasya Smaranamatreena Dvaitavasana Pramachyate Bodhatmakaya Namastasme Bhagavate Shri Ramanamarshye Hridakashi Sadabhantam Shantam Anandarupinam Jnanabhan Muhammadde Sadgurum Shri Satya Sainam Mama Antaryaminam. We come to the final session of Prema Vahini. Prema Vahini, the stream of love, knows no end. But this series of discourses will slowly wind down with today's session. Swami was giving some very important practical tips for sadhakas. Stick to the japa, the name and the form that you have chosen for your japa and meditation. Do not randomly keep changing that. Similarly, stick to the time and place as far as possible. Stick to the discipline. Do not let that discipline be compromised because of the conveniences or the inconveniences of the illusory world. Everyone should so lead life that no pain is caused to any living being. That is their supreme duty. Also, it is the prime duty of everyone who has had the chance of this human birth to spare a part of their energies occasionally in prayer, repetition of the Lord's name, meditation, etc. Everyone must equate living with Sathya, dharma, shanti, and good works that are of service to others. One must be as afraid of doing evil deeds as much as one would be to touch fire or catch a cobra. One must have as much attachment and steadfastness in carrying out good works, in making others happy, and in worshipping the Lord as one has now in accumulating wealth and riches. This is the human dharma. Again and again it can be encapsulated in this phrase, Atmano Mokshartam Jagadhitaya Cha. Strive to liberate yourself and in the process make everyone around you happy. Work for the welfare and the benefits of the world. Do not hurt anybody, help everyone. Help ever, hurt never. That's Swami is so fond of being quoted. Because I have not heard Swami use that help ever, hurt never as much as it is seen everywhere. Of course, Swami doesn't use those terms. Swami says, Andarni preminchu. Love all. Everni dushinchoddu. Do not hurt anybody. These things are there. But it is encapsulated into those very catchy phrases. But Swami usually doesn't use those phrases. But the purpose of our human life, the dharma of human life, is to live our life in such a way that we do not cause pain to anybody. Even if we cannot do upakara, at least apakara should not be done. Even if we cannot help them, at least you should not hurt them. This much we should take care. Hurting apdina manasa vachasa karmana. Even mentally one should not hurt anyone, because even though that individual person may not know that they are being hurt, the antaryami knows. Your antaryami knows. That antaryami being the same knows. Therefore, even mentally one should not wish ill or harm for anybody. By doing so, what we are accumulating is only negative karma, bad karma, which is going to further stop us in our progress towards spirituality. These are all small things that one has to be very careful about. That is why Swami keeps on telling us to do that. Even mentally, manasa, even in thought, do not criticize anybody. Do not wish harm for anybody. Instead, have the broadness of vision to understand that they are also instruments in the hands of the Lord. He is making them also do for a reason. Why should they behave like that with me? For some reason, something that Swami wants me to learn or benefit from it. Therefore, he is making them behave like that. Finished. The Lord incarnates himself in the human form in order to strengthen this type of goodness and dharma only. That is why Bhagavan tells Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita that whenever there is a decline in dharma, see, dharma can never be lost, but there is a decline in it. The number of people that are following reduces. Human minds are so attached to the external that very quickly we forget all the inner values and go and get attached to the external world. When more and more people start to, when that becomes the majority, at that time then paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. Bhagavan says, I reincarnate myself in every age so that I come to save the people who are performing sadhana. Paritranaya sadhunam. Yaru sadhu? The one who is a sadhaka is a sadhu. In order to protect those who are sincere in their sadhana, and in order to prevent those who are opposed to sadhana from disturbing those who are doing sadhana. This is important also. Otherwise, there are so few people who want to do sadhana, but there are others to oppose them, disturb them. Where will they find courage? Where will they find security? Bhagavan comes and gives them that security. In his presence, they know they are safe. Prashanti Nilayam, for instance. Swami, in an avataram, he came and established Prashanti Nilayam. Now, we know Prashanti is a safe place to do sadhana. Nobody is going to come and disturb you there. This is just physically. Just merely physically speaking, there is a place. But even otherwise, in a cosmic way also, Bhagavan establishes certain rules when an avatara happens, whereby the number of people that are able to focus and meditate and do sadhana increases. The word sadhu here does not refer to any single religion, caste, family, stage of life, community, or even a single species. It refers to all religions, all stages of life, all races, all creatures. We were sent a forward recently of how Swami went to a village in East Godavari years ago in the 50s, and the person in whose house Swami was visiting served him a cup of pomegranate arrows. And he said, Swami, we planted this tree, but this is the first time this tree has borne fruit, and this is the only fruit it has borne. Swami said, show me the tree. And Swami went to the tree, looked at the tree, stood there near the tree, and told them, this tree did tapasya. This tree did so much tapasya in order to be able to serve me. That is why it bore one fruit. This fruit is exclusively for me. Sorry, Swami ate that fruit. Swami never liked fruits. Swami actually did not like fruits at all. He would rarely eat fruits. The only fruit he would like was the watermelon. Apart from that, he was not very partial to any fruits at all. But this pomegranate Swami eats. Later on he comes back and the news comes that the tree, no matter how much they tried, withered away and became nothing. Later on when they come to Parthi, Swami asks them, hey, isn't this place where you went and got this tree? Isn't this how you planted it and you took care of it? After so many years of looking after it, no fruits came. Only when I was coming, there was a fruit. But after that, it gave up its life because it said, my job is done. It's only a tree. We will think it is only a tree. But haven't we seen in Krishna Avataram that there were two trees that were waiting patiently for Krishna? If two trees in Dwapara Yuga can wait for Krishna, cannot this tree wait for Sai Kanhaiya, for Sai Krishna to bear fruit and give? All nature, everything in nature is filled with Chaitanyam only, consciousness only. And when the Lord of the universe comes, every living being, every creature wants to serve him in its own way. And Bhagavan accepts it and rewards it. So, Paritranaya Sadhunam, even those animals and birds and plants also are included in the word Sadhu. Anyone who wants to serve the Lord, Sadhu. Satsankalpam is what is necessary. Sadhu Sankalpam is what is necessary. I was narrating a little story to everybody in the afternoon. An interesting episode happened, and in connection with that, I was narrating the story. Our Lusha, what had happened with our Lusha is that she had usually a group of ladies carpool and come, and they go back together. But today some change happened, so she drove and came in the morning session, came here. And then she left after in the lunch, but then it was supposed to be a rainy day and dark and forbidding, so we were not very happy for her to drive by herself in the night and go. So I said, see, play it by the ear, let us see how it goes. And she said, all right, if I cannot come, I would love to come, but if I cannot come, I will simply watch it over Zoom. I said, all right, we'll see. I left, I sent her off and came back, and I was still thinking, the poor thing wants to come so badly. Swami, why don't you make something? Do something about it. She has this desire to come for this. Suddenly, after some time, one of the youth sends me a message. If I can go and pick her up and drop her. He lives nearby here, so it's a bit of a distance. But he said, that's okay, I can go pick her up and drop. I said, there's no need to drop, just pick her up, somebody can drop. Okay, fine. So that was sort of established. But then after some time, someone else sent me a message. These are people that are very rare species of creatures. You can't get to see them very often. They are, sort of once in a while they will descend from the heavens in a divine manner, and we will get their darshan. Otherwise, they are not easy to get their darshan. And that person, suddenly sends a message saying, we will come today. And they live very close to Lucia. We will come. So I said, good, bring Lucia. So Lucia is sitting here. It just so happened. This reminded me of a story. Swami was in Kodaikanal. And in Kodai, Swami, when he stays there, at the end of the stay, he gives some blessings and prasadam and gifts to all the people who served him. And there were this group of policemen who were doing some various kind of policing duties, security and so on. And that was the day when Swami had said that he will give them clothes and some money and so on. They had planned for about 20 cops. And so white pieces of clothing and all were kept aside for that many people. Cash was kept. Suddenly, in the morning when Swami came out, Swami went into the hall, Bhajan hall, where all the cops were made to sit. He walked in, there were 100 people sitting there. So promptly he walked back out, came to the organizers and said, there are 80 people more. Do we have enough supplies and things? They said, Swami, not a problem, enough stock of clothes is there. But they were also planning to give cash to everybody. That cash was a bit, who has got cash, ready. So the people said, okay, we will try and see how much we can pool in and do what we can do. And Swami said, all right, you take care of that, I will go for darshan. Swami went out for morning darshan. He finished darshan. In the meantime, they are trying to empty their pockets and wallets, but still not able to meet that particular number that they want. Swami comes back from darshan. And then, as he is walking, he's got his bunch of letters in his hand. And as he is walking, one envelope falls down to the ground. Swami says, pick it up. And the man who is trying to get all the money together, he's the one who picks it up. Swami says, open it. And they open it, there is some currency notes inside it. Count it. And they count it to, it is the exact number that they need. Same number that they need. Swami looks at them and makes a very remarkable statement. He says, see, I did not use my divine powers to make this happen. I did not use my divine powers to make this happen. So people are thinking, yeah, sure, whatever, what to do, we can't do anything, whatever you say. But then Swami makes a very remarkable statement. Swami says, when there is Satsankalpa, when there is a good sadhu sankalpa, a right resolve to do something good, something noble, something selfless, something for God, something that is related to spirituality, when there is a deep desire, all nature will work itself around to make it happen. Nature itself will work around to make it happen. So, when this whole drama unfolded this afternoon, I was reminded of the story and said, see, somehow something happened, it all unfolded just so that she can get a ride. Why? Because she had that desire, that sadhu sankalpa was there. Oh, I want to come and attend the satsang. And somehow or the other, God makes it happen. What are the odds? She herself was so surprised. I never thought they will be coming, but they were coming, so Idam paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam dharma samsthapanarthaya. When that right resolve is there, Bhagavan will make it happen in such a sweet, beautiful, exceedingly wonderful, mysterious way. We will be left just flabbergasted. We'll be just wondering how do you manage to do these things, Swami? The Lord revealed His universal mind in the Gita. It is because of this universal message that Gita has become so essential, so famous, where He gives so many wonderful, beautiful promises. Why Krishna Himself has declared in plenty of situations and places that He is the dutiful servant of His devotees. An example of this, He is accepting to becoming a charioteer for Arjuna. If the culture of the ordinary person results in such elevation, each one can judge for themselves how much more purified and holy would be the character of those who are engaged in sadhana and the incessant contemplation of God. For both of these types of people, the quality of their character is the most important criterion. There is a great difference between those established in Brahmanishta in the past and today's Brahmanishtas, those who are contemplating on the Brahman today. First, it is necessary to grasp the greatness of the contemplation of Brahman, of the Brahmachintana. In the past, the greatness of this was realized, and holy people were immersed in experiencing this holiness. It is because this has not been done by present day world that poverty has come upon us. The question may arise, why such holy feelings don't arise now? They are not absent, they are there, but for the fire to increase or decrease, it is the fuel that is the cause. If there is plenty of fuel, then the fire will keep burning for a longer period of time. The more the fuel, the more the illumination. In all humanity, every individual has the undisputed right to feed this fire with fuel. By its very nature, this fire has the power to give us light, but it needs fuel. What is the fuel? The fuel of renunciation, peacefulness, truth, mercifulness, forbearance, and selfless service has to be constantly placed in the fire of the buddhi of the sadhaka, the fire that emanates the light of jnana. The more sadhakas do this, the more efficacious and effulgent they can become. See this? To contemplate on the Brahman, what was it in those days? Swami says in those days, it was an accepted way of life. If somebody said, I want to contemplate on the Brahman, they will say, good, we will make all arrangements for you. Now if a child says, I want to contemplate on the Brahman, then the first people to stop him from doing so are his own parents. What nonsense, what Brahman, Gimman and all. You get to go study well, get a good job. After that you can contemplate on Brahman. By the time the fellow says, all right, children are very gullible there. They will say, okay, they will believe you. They will study. After they finish studying, now can I contemplate the Brahman? No, you can. First get married, then you can contemplate on the Brahman. So he gets married. Now can I contemplate on the Brahman? Have children, then you can contemplate on the Brahman. So poor fellow has children. After that, what contemplation on the Brahman? Appo enna contemplation on the Brahman? Ella Brahma da. Brahman illa, ella Brahma. Brahma na delusion. Brahma அப்படின truth. Brahma na delusion. அப்புறம் அப்படியே தான் மாய. Renunciation is necessary. Shanti is necessary. Sathya is necessary. A heart filled with compassion is necessary. Forbearance is necessary. These are the fuel that can light up the fire of jnana within us. Only trees growing on fertile soil can yield good fruits. Those growing on saline soils will be poor. So also, it is only in unsullied hearts that holy, noble feelings can shine in splendor. The present day contemplators of Brahman practice the same meditation on the pranava that the old Brahmanishtas used to do. But the difference between the two arises not in their meditation but in the decline in self-control as far as the field of spiritual discipline goes. When the number of Mahapurushas who engaged themselves in unflinching meditation of God in solitary places declined, much suffering descended upon the world. The suffering in the world is only because of the decline in sadhakas. See, help ever, hurt never, Swami, love all, serve all. How do you love all and serve all? Here is a beautiful way Swami gives to love all, serve all. Even if you sit in a solitary place, but you are involved in incessant bhakti, contemplation toward the Lord, then what happens? The overall level of joy and happiness in the world goes up. When that declines, suffering descends upon humanity. Those who exist today are damaging their contemplation on God by arranging for the accumulation of obstacles for carrying out their spiritual practices, by getting enslaved to mean praise and fame, by becoming entangled in delusion, and by restlessly endeavoring to earn glory to expand the institutions that they have founded. Leave aside those who have institutions and so on. Even ordinary people would have. Even people like us who want to do some sadhana, even before we do sadhana, Swami says here, we arrange for obstacles. As though necessarily we arrange for all obstacles before we even sit to meditate. Yeah, or obstacle, for instance, we'll set a timer for 10 minutes and sit to meditate. So that 10 minutes alarm will come, then I can get up and do the rest of the work. Yeah, in case I do meditation more than 10 minutes, problem, no? But then what does it mean? After 2 minutes I'll open, oh, 6 more time. Then 2 more minutes, oh, more time. These are obstacles then. Various such obstacles are there, money, fame, name, all those things, obstacles. We keep creating, we keep arranging for all of those things and then say, why am I not making progress in spirituality? Actually, it's an overstatement. Who's actually bothered about making progress in spirituality? I don't think many people are actually concerned. Alas, I am not making progress, and who's asking? Nobody's asking. Those who yearn to establish themselves in Brahmanishta, the uninterrupted contemplation of the Brahman, must seek solitude, practice meditation and the repetition of the name at regular intervals of time, acquire one-pointedness through these spiritual practices. They must always be anxious to do deeds that will bring about the welfare of all beings. They must always be engaged in performing work without any concern for the results of the action, for the fruits of the action. It is only when such people come upon the earth that suffering will cease. This will be the mark of the golden age or Kritha Yuga. What is necessary? People who are willing to meditate on the Brahman. People who are willing to have Tyaga Bhava, renunciation running in their blood. For the sake of God, I will be willing to give up anything. A renunciation should be there. The anxiety to do deeds that will bring welfare to the world should be there. Most important, Nishkama Karma. Doing all the actions without expecting anything out of it, without expecting the results, is necessary. When such people abound, then Swami says all the suffering in this world also will slowly come to a close. In this world, kind-hearted doctors run medical institutions here and there and serve the diseased and cure the afflicted. Similarly, if we had ashrams here and there of holy personages who are experts in the treatment and the cure of the birth and death disease, Bhavaroga, then people will be cured of the afflictions of ignorance, untruth, immortality and self-aggrandizement. Ignorance produces wickedness and can only be cured by the medicine called Brahmajnana with supplementary doses of the medicines such as Shanti, Shama, Dama, etc. Instead of this, the so-called great men of today give those who approach them the medicines that the patients demand, the medicines that the patients relish. Thus, they become the followers of the followers. They become the instruments of their followers, and for the sake of name and fame, they behave like doctors dictated by patients. The so-called great fall into perdition even before they taste the spiritual bliss themselves on account of their weakness and foolishness by becoming a prey to the wiles of greed for name and fame. This is for the so-called spiritual great people, not so much for all of us. Because he's talking about those somebody who's established in the position of a guru or an acharya, etc. How should they behave? They should not pander to the egos of the disciples and the followers. Yeah. What do you need a guru for? Why should the guru be somebody who panders to your ego and praises you? Guru should be somebody who is not afraid to slap you, if need be. Yeah, now, if that will bring good to you, he should not hesitate to verbally lash you. He should not be afraid to call you idiots. Because if you are one, you should be called one. Yeah. Otherwise, oh no, they may feel offended if I call them an idiot. So what shall I do? How else will you wake up? How else will you realize that you are going in the wrong path, that we need to do more? How else will you be inspired to do so? Yeah. That is what Swami is referring to here. Instead of pandering to their egos and their whims and fancies, one should be firm in the truth and bring them along to the path of the truth. We should not swerve from our path of the truth and go into their path. We should bring them into this path. The holy essence of God has to be realized and experienced by everybody. One's selfish needs have to be sacrificed. There must be the constant effort to do good to others. One's desires should only be to establish welfare of the world. With these feelings filling the heart, one must meditate on the Lord. This is the right path. If great men and those in authority are engaged in the service of humanity and promoting the welfare of the world, then the thieves of passion, hatred, pride, envy, jealousy, conceit, etc. will not invade the minds of men. The divine possessions of people like dharma, shanti, ahimsa, jnana, etc. will be safe from harm. And these are the values that we must instill within ourselves so that we can protect and safeguard ourselves and keep aside the enemies of kama, krodha, lobha, etc. at bay. Police and rulers can only overcome external enemies. They have no power to destroy the internal ones. They will find the task impossible. They are not the right authorities for that. The internal enemies, Arishad Varga, are operating inside a person and can be uprooted only by the teachings of good people, love of God, knowledge of the Lord, and the company of the holy and the great. These are the only things that can destroy the enemies within. The world suffers harm at the hands of wicked people when the police and authorities responsible for apprehending the thieves themselves become dependent upon them. Similarly, the world becomes enveloped in even greater darkness and ignorance. Dharma is destroyed when those who are contemplating on the Brahman, the great sadhakas, give up the path of world welfare and become victims of sense enjoyment and ambitions to earn name and fame. The whole world will bask in peace and joy only when both groups, the worldly authorities as well as the spiritual authorities, realize the right attitudes and with the welfare of all in their heart, ponder upon the glory and the greatness of the Lord. Really speaking, this is a beautiful part, almost at the end of Prema Vahini. Initially, I was thinking of Dhyana Vahini. After Prashanti Vahini, I was actually thinking Dhyana Vahini would be an appropriate Vahini too for the next session. But in our regular satsangs, I was always harping on love, 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 prema, 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 prema. Above, somebody said, since you're always talking on prema, why don't you do Prema Vahini rather than Dhyana Vahini? A little suggestion came. So then we shifted it to Prema Vahini. Then I was casually going through Prema Vahini right up to the end. And this bit came, especially how it ends, that bit came. And I thought, how appropriate. As we go, I will tell you the appropriateness of it. Really speaking, the prayers of the great ones act as an invitation even for the avatara of the Lord. In the external world, when the subjects need any convenience or help, they approach the rulers and inform them of their request. So also, in this Adhyatma Rajyam, in the internal state, the spiritual state also, when there is no possibility of achieving and acquiring devotion, charity, peace, truth, and so on, the great and the good who desire the welfare of the world pray to the Lord within themselves. And listening to their prayers, He comes into this world and showers His grace on them. This fact is well known to all. Didn't Rama and Krishna incarnate because the Lord heeded the prayers of the sages? Many have read in the Ramayana and the Bhagavata. Even Ramakrishna, though he was divinely born, prayed to goddess Kali to send someone who could preach to the whole world the dharma that would uproot injustice and selfishness. This is known to everybody who has read his life history. That is why Swami Vivekananda, Narendra appeared in the scene, so that he could go everywhere and take this message to everybody. Thus, prayers should be offered again and again for the realization of this task. No one should become depressed and give up prayers if they don't result immediately in the advent of the Lord. Swami is writing this. Swami is writing it when Swami is actually the avatara himself sitting there writing this. But he is saying you should pray for the advent of the Lord and don't be depressed if it doesn't immediately happen. It will happen, you pray. Since he is already advented, what are we praying for? Abdina, see the appropriateness of this now. Another week is the 24th of, not even a week, the 24th of April, Swami's Mahasamadhi day. 96 years complete. On the actual day of Swami's Mahasamadhi, we were doing Bhagavatam and we were talking about, mark these words, we were talking about the departure of Krishna. Today, we are talking about the advent of the Lord. I have no doubts in my mind, perhaps today Prema Sai is being born. Who knows? Who knows? Perhaps today Prema Sai is being born. In fact, Prema Vahini, just a few more pages to Prema Vahini. I'm going to jump ahead. The last bit in Prema Vahini says, pray for the advent of the avatar. Pray for the advent of the divine personage. There are no limitations of time and space for the establishment of one in the contemplation of the Lord. The world can achieve prosperity through disciplined souls whose hearts are pure and who represent the salt of the earth. In an attempt to promote the welfare of the world, from this very moment, everyone should pray for the advent of such, should try to deserve the blessings of the great and try to forget the sufferings of the day. This is how it Prema Vahini ends. Pray for the advent. In its own way, very interesting, a very interesting insight. Who knows, perhaps it is the time for the next avatar, because Swami has certainly promised that Prema Sai will come. So maybe this is the redemption of that promise. So when I read Prema Vahini and the fact that we are going to have it during Easter, as we know, Easter was when Mahasamadhi happened. Although it was 24th of April, but Easter was when Mahasamadhi happened, on Easter Sunday. And now, as we finish this today, we are going to talk about praying for the advent of the avatar. If you put these two and two together, you get infinity, don't you? You can get the infinite, Brahman itself. Thus, prayers should be offered again and again for the realization of this task. No one should become desperate and give up prayers if they don't immediately result in the advent of the Lord. In the external state, how often does a person have to write and how much does he have to wander about to get the work done from the government? And perhaps in the end it may not get done at all. But here it will be done, but it will definitely be done in course of time. But the fact that we are discussing it means its time has come. There are very little doubts about it. Because when we discussed Krishna, Uddhava saying, Krishna, I know what you are planning to do. I know you are planning to lift the curtains, bring down the curtains on your avatar. Even as we were saying that the phone calls came, that Swami has left his mortal coil. That the curtains came down on the avatar. Now we are talking about the coming of the avatar. If that is true, then why should this not be true? So maybe we will soon, in the course of time here, but maybe these dates we'll have to mark and keep so that we can cross check and say, oh yes, this is the date that we were discussing about the advent of the Lord. We discussed the departure of the Lord. Now we are discussing the advent of the Lord. 10 years later. Almost 10 years later. That was 2011. Now it's 2022. 11 years later. Because Swami's 96th birthday finished in November. And now comes this, the timings all seem to be appropriate. So who knows what Swami has in mind. Nobody can second guess him. Of course, we cannot second guess him. But I dare say, it is probably happening. How is one to know the consequence of the soul's yearning? Since this can't be known, one has to pray until the world is established in happiness. The happiness of the world is the sign of his arrival. If this is understood, then it is easy to recognize the avatar immediately. Why is he talking about avatar, recognition of the avatar's arrival, when he is sitting there and writing this? It is then that the religion of Satya, Daya, Jnana and Prema will grow and prosper. So, until these are firmly rooted, people must continue their prayers. That is a responsibility of the people. The road laid out by the holy people has to be repaired now and then, either by those who travel through it or by those who claim authority over it. This is what is called as teaching, bodha. It is for the sake of such repairs that the Lord occasionally sends authorized individuals, sages and divine people. Through their good teachings, the path opened by the God people of the past, the holy ones of the past, is once again made clear and smooth. Thus, when the Lord's will, the needs of the spiritual seekers, and the teachings of the great produce the combined effect, the happiness of the world will be assured and become undiminished. Everything coming together. Bhagavan has to have his grace and sankalpa. Seekers have to be yearning for it. Mahapurushas and Mahatmas will have to teach it. When all this come together, then greatness is established, happiness is established. If all humanity prays at one time for unrest, injustice, disorder and falsehood to be transformed to peace, truth, love and mutual service, things will certainly get better. There is no other way out. Worrying is fruitless. This is not an occasion for despair. It is against the essential nature of people to plead weakness and want of strength. Therefore, giving up the search for other means, people must pray, serve others, have mutual love and respect. They should delay no longer. They will soon acquire contentment and joy. The prophetic words, Madhuri. And again, when you look at the state of the world currently, we just had a pandemic, there's a war going on, there's so much of unrest everywhere. People are once again turning towards the Lord and praying everywhere for relief. When these things were not there, pockets of prayers were going on, generally. But now everywhere, for the welfare of the world, people are praying. Because the world is suffering so much. Sometimes this kind of sufferings also come only so that everybody then from their heart starts to pray so that the Lord can then manifest himself. Before Narasimhavataram happened, Hiranyakashipu tortured so many people. Before Sri Ramavataram happened, there was so much of unrest because of the torture of the Rakshasas such as Ravana and others. Before Sri Krishnavataram happened also, the earth itself could not bear the burden of evil upon her and she had to go and pray. Everywhere, every time, what happens? A crisis has to be reached before the avatara can happen. And surely we can say we are looking at a crisis at the moment. The world is certainly at a crisis point. If not now, then when? So, very soon, I'm sure, if not already, maybe today, very soon, I keep saying today because that is what happened on the 24th of April. Our past experience is what gives us the confidence to say perhaps the em tariq iroju amma 18th April, perhaps 18th April is the birthday of Prem Sai, who knows. We can always pray for it to happen. We can always, Swami is telling us to pray for it to happen. Pray for the avatara to happen. Imagine Swami writing it in Prema Vahini. Everything Swami does has got a time and purpose. Maybe the entire reason Prema Vahini was written is so that today we are doing it. I will not be surprised. I will not be surprised. It may have served purpose for so many people, but perhaps the real purpose of Prema Vahini is today us. Because that is how Bhagavatam we did when Mahasamadhi happened. What are the odds of that? So why not this? So if all humanity prays for good to happen, for truth and peace, etc., it will definitely happen. Do not delay any longer. You will soon acquire contentment and peace. People say that Manava Seva is Madhava Seva. That is a true statement. But although the service of humanity is holy, unless it is merged with a bigger ideal, people will not benefit, however huge the service is. Mere repetition of the slogan is useless if service is done without faith in the divinity of people and with an eye on name and fame and the fruits of one's actions. See, service is all good, but without divinity involved in it, without spirituality involved in it, service can never be selfless. There is no reason for selfless service to exist if Bhagavan is not involved in it. Unless spirituality becomes the driving force, you may say, oh no, I saw the sorrow of others, I was moved by it. That is an impulse. It's an impulsive thing, temporarily. After some time, the same people, when they start to, they will start an organization, they will start a movement, and it is born out of that desire the pain and the desire at that moment to want to help somebody. But later on, they will become prey to name and fame and so on, because there's nothing to keep them going on the same straight path. You have to have spirituality for it. So, Manava Seva is Madhava Seva. But unless you mean it to be Madhava Seva, Manava Seva itself is useless. That is why Swami is saying, you must have faith in divinity. You must see Madhava in Manava and then serve. Otherwise, if you are simply serving Manava alone, then that cannot be called service. You have to see divinity and serve, only then it can be called as service. When whatever action one undertakes, if one has constantly as a companion the contemplation of the Lord, and if one has faith in the essential divinity of the people, then the statement that Manava Seva is Madhava Seva is justified. Otherwise, without thoughts of Madhava, how can there be service of God? All such talk is mere show. I won't agree to that. Instead, whatever is done with the Lord in mind, along the path of Sathya and dharma, has to be considered as selfless service to the Lord. And whatever is done for name and fame or the fruit thereof shall not be referred to as service to the people. What is service? If God is not involved in it, it cannot be called as selfless service. It's an altruistic endeavor. It's a nice thing to do. It's an altruistic endeavor, but it cannot be called as sadhana. It cannot become spiritual. It cannot be called as a means to attain the Lord, because there it is done for name and fame. It is done for the sake of pandering to one's own mental satisfaction or ego. It is done for the results and the gain and the profit that comes as a result of it. These kind of things, if they are there, then Swami definitely does not agree that can be called as service. In fact, and here comes a beautiful statement which once in a while Swami makes. In fact, those who are immersed in uninterrupted contemplation of the Lord need not do any other task at all. The fruit of their prayer itself can make the world holy. However, since all cannot be engaged in this manner, others must try to prepare for the stage by purifying their minds and diminishing their desires by serving everybody. If you can sit and think about God, you don't need to do anything else. If you cannot, then you should go about and do that. There was once a group of devotees who had come walking all the way from Maharashtra to Parthi, that Warkari people. They had come. And the whole time they were singing the name of the Lord and minds was focused on the Lord. They came from Maharashtra to Prashanti walking. And when they came, Swami called them for an interview. Swami was waiting for them to come. Swami called them for an interview. And Swami said, "Enta kashtapadaru, you walked so much, you must have become so tired. For the next few days, you don't need to do anything. You don't have to do any service, nothing. You simply sit in the bhajan, you sing bhajans, you meditate, you eat nice food in the canteen. You don't have to do anything. You rest." That itself is enough. In a small interview to a group of Westerners, that Swami gave in Kodai, as an audio, grainy audio. In those days, it used to be available. This was before so much of explosion of information was there. This was rare things to get in those days. And there was this rare audio, and in that you can hear Swami saying, if you can think about God, then you don't need to do anything else. If you cannot, then go and serve everybody. If you can sit and think about God, then nothing else is required. If you cannot, then go and serve everybody. So, in Swami Cholrar, in fact, those who are immersed in uninterrupted contemplation of the Lord need not do any other task. Now, there are two aspects to this statement. Mostly, generally, our ears perk up, need not do any other task. Yes. But there is a part before that. Those who can immerse themselves in uninterrupted contemplation of the Lord. That is the catch. Yeah. What is this business uninterrupted contemplation? Why can't I just take the second half alone? Yatechasi tata kuru. Do as you please. Don't worry. Sarvadhaman parityajya. Yatechasi tata kuru. Inshallah. In Bhagavad Gita, there are two shlokas. One shloka starts with Sarvadharman parityajya. The other shloka ends with Yatechasi tata kuru. Sarvadharman parityajya means give up all your dharmas. Yatechasi tata kuru means do as you please. But the context is Krishna says, I have told you everything, now you think well about it and then do as you seem fit, do as you please. That's what Krishna said. One clever fellow, what he said was, essence of Bhagavad Gita, Sarvadharman parityajya, give up all your dharmas and then Yatechasi tata kuru, do as you please. I think Krishna himself would not have thought of this. Our body soliptar. I did not realize that people will do this kind of cut and paste job, and they will say the essence of Bhagavad Gita is you forgive up all dharmas and do as you please. So, if you can immerse yourself in uninterrupted contemplation of the Lord, then you don't need to do anything. However, Swami himself says immediately, next sentence, however, all can't be engaged like this. So, you prepare for that stage. Eventually, you can reach that stage. But don't think you're already there. Now, prepare for that stage. The spiritual seekers who have achieved this can realize it for themselves. Others, they cannot understand this. This does not mean you can sit quietly. Again, that's what Swami is also clarifying. Swami is also now afraid because after Krishna Avataram, he learnt his lesson. Now he used to say, if I just make a random statement, then they will take that and run with it. I better clarify. This does not mean you can sit quietly. Grasping that equality, that oneness that is present everywhere is dependent upon your prarabdha, your purva karma and your sadhana. Until you grasp that oneness, until you grasp that samatva, do your meditation, repeat your nama so that your mind will become free from the waves of feeling of different bhavas and become full instead of the divine. At the same time, carry out deeds that are meant to do good to everybody. Devote your time to the service of the world regardless of the results. Thus you can become blessed. Otherwise, though the body may be inactive, the mind will be very busy committing acts on its own. People with such minds fall prey to karma even though they are not doing anything. When a person has the mind fixed on contemplation of God and the pursuit of truth, though the body and senses do actions that are of service to the world, they will not be affected by it. Though they do actions or karma, they are still non-doers of action only. This is the lesson of Bhagavad Gita that is embedded in it. selfless action cannot bind us. Even when the mind is contemplating on the Lord, if the body is engaged in selfless action, the action, karma itself cannot be cause of bondage. On the other hand, even if the body is sitting quietly, but the mind is wandering about here and there, then that is still considered as karma. That is still considered as karma only. You must not think that only doing it physically is action. Doing it mentally also is considered as karma only. If you mentally hate somebody, if you mentally hurt somebody, then that is also considered as actually hurting them. In fact, manifold times hurting them. Similarly, if you do good to somebody even mentally, that is also considered as good karma only. Swami himself says this. So, it doesn't mean I am sitting quietly physically. Even if you are physically sitting quietly, mind can still wander about and earn papa and punya. On the other hand, even if the body is wandering, but the mind is fixed on God, then no sin will come to us. See how easy and clear this logic is. If the mind is wandering, even if the body is still, it is karma. If the mind is fixed, even if the body is wandering, it is not karma. The heart of the person who doesn't strive to cultivate the mind with holy thoughts will become a birthplace of evil and wickedness. Therefore, if you are aspiring for moksha, then you must seek this one-pointedness and not let the mind become wayward. Don't let the mind go here and there. That is the cause for being dragged into this world. Otherwise, we have heard plenty of discourses that speak about the transitoriness of the world, the uselessness of the world. In spite of it, we go back to it. Why? Because mind has dragged us to it. That is why it is so important for us to practice sadhana. The whole Prema Vahini Swami has been insisting so much on sadhana. It is more like sadhana Vahini, if you ask me. Although Swami never wrote a Vahini called sadhana Vahini, but this Prema Vahini is like sadhana Vahini. Everything is about sadhana here. Perhaps because, again, I tend to think avatara happened only for me. No, the other way around. I happened only for the avatara. We finished Prashanti Vahini and started sadhana. And now here Prema Vahini is the next one, and Swami is insisting on sadhana, because he knows that not everybody who signed up and said I will do sadhana are doing it. And அப்படி டீலில் போயிடுது, காற்றுல விட்டாச்சு. அதனால he says Prema Vahini, hey, எல்லாம் சாதனை பண்ணுறீங்களாடா, are you all doing sadhana? அப்படின்னு Swami is pulling us up. Therefore, this has to be borne in mind by everyone who is seeking moksha, that you have got to work towards gaining this ekagrata, one-pointedness. You must be in a position to take the mind and place it at the feet of the Lord and not let it move from there. That alone can be called a bhakti. Acharya Shankara says in Shivananda Lahari, that when your mental activities go and reach the lotus feet of Pashupati and stay there and not moving from there, upeti tishtati sada, it goes and sits there and doesn't move. Sa bhakti rityuchyate. That is what is called as bhakti. The mind wandering around cannot be called bhakti. Mind wandering around cannot be called bhakti. Now I'll think about God, then I'll think about something else. Now I'll think about God, then I will think about something else. That cannot be called bhakti. Should I always think about God? You must understand, this always thinking about God is not a question of time. It is a question of intensity. It is a question of importance. It is a question of priority. This cannot be explained by saying, think about God from 7:30 to 8:30. You should not think about anything else but God. It is not like that. It is not like that. On the other hand, it is that deep conviction that is flowing in the blood and steeped in the bones that God alone is important. When it becomes so deeply convinced within us, then we can never forget Him. No matter what we are doing externally, we can never forget God. The question of forgetting Him does not arise. The question of placing the mind on God does not arise, because the mind doesn't leave Him and go anywhere. But for that, what is important is prema in the heart. You establish a relationship with Swami, establish a connection with God. Then, even if your mind wants to go here and there, He will sit tight upon it, preventing it from wandering around. Ultimately, that is the siddhi that we want to attain. Through our sadhana, through all our effort, the success, the power that we need to attain is that He will hold on to our minds and not allow it to wander. And we should tempt Him that much. We should make Him interested in holding on to us that much. That should be the aim for us. Steady contemplation of the Brahman alone is the only criterion for attaining this jnana. Neither caste, nor monkhood, nor rituals, nor scholarship, nor ashrama, karanam muktehe, darshanani na karanam, tataiva sarva karmani, jnanamevehi karanam. For attaining moksha, jnana alone is the cause, not the ashrama that you belong to, the stage of life, brahmachari or sannyasi. It is not necessary. Darshanani na karanam, nor studying the various scriptures and philosophy is not necessary. Tataiva sarva karmani, similarly all the actions also. Nothing is the essence or nothing is the cause for spiritual liberation or jnana. What is for moksha? Jnana alone is the cause. Jnana devatu kaivalyam. But to attain that jnana, what is necessary? Uninterrupted contemplation, idaividada swarupa smriti. Uninterrupted contemplation on the divine. Constant meditation, avichinna dhara, avichinna taila dharavat. Like the uninterrupted flow of oil from one container to the other, our mind, our heart, our love flows from us to Him constantly. Constantly, nothing else in artham. The meaning of constantly is not to be measured in terms of time. Constantly is measured by the fact that it goes nowhere else. Do you understand? Constantly, it doesn't go anywhere else. So it is there only, constantly with God only. So if the mind is always with God, meaning it doesn't go anywhere else. Where is it? It's God only. So keeping your mind on God means not putting it on anything else. Not putting on anything else means what? Not giving importance to anything else. Otherwise, I have to live in this world. I have to apply my mind to so many things in this world. Then how do you say you think only about God? What is the meaning of that? You do all this, but know that it is all futile. Know that it is all worthless. We saw Swami saying it previously in Prema Vahini itself. What did he say? He said, I am not against people being happy. I want you all to be happy, but know that it is temporary. Know that it is unreal. Isn't it? We all need jobs, we all need money, we all need the whatever creature conveniences that we have become used to. And Swami is not denying us any of those things. It's okay, have all of those things. But know that they are useless. Know that they are all temporary. Know that that is not why you are existing. It is there to serve you, but it is not necessary. It's there, it is there. If it is not there, it is not there. What is important for me? What is necessary for me? What is my priority? Where should I not fail? Where can I fail? In anything in the world you can fail, it doesn't matter. Where should you not fail? In connecting to Him, you should not fail. In giving importance to Him, there can be no failure. That is what we have to understand. That is what we have to learn. That is why in the morning I was saying how Swami said, in your university maybe he is a gold medalist. Na college lo ledu. Not in mine. Na subject lo ledu. Another fellow was introduced. Same thing, another fellow was introduced by Swami. He's a gold medalist. That fellow said, yes, Swami, and I didn't get gold medals from me. Swami said, in my subject you are gold medalist. In my subject you are topper. I'm not talking about that subject. In my subject, he didn't get gold medal. But Swami said, introduced him to somebody saying he's the gold medalist. That fellow felt bad, so he thought Swami must have made a mistake. It happens to the best of us. Swami must have made a mistake. Swami said, in my subject you've got a gold medal, Ra. What is your problem? That is where we've got to get a gold medal. What is the point of getting top marks and all these worldly things? What is the use? Yes, those who have got top marks, are they happy? Are they happy? Those who have got top positions, are they happy? Those who are earning a lot of money, are they happy? Those who have, on the other hand, won from him, viduna bhaktudani, ellavelalu nee oka reeti anugrahamunna chalu. On the other hand, if you feel in your heart that great pride and that great delight, he is my devotee, if you should feel, Appa Swami, chalu, that much is enough for me. Adhikamulakemi, avi epudai kalu. Excess, so many good things, this, that and the other, what is the big deal? They can come any time. But what is more important? What is more important is for me to gain a place in your heart, for you to think about me and say, Viduna Bhaktudani, Viduna Bhaktudu, he is my devotee. Viduna Vadu Ani, he is mine. Bhagavan should declare. That is more important. Yeah, how will it be when Swami says, you're not my student? What is the purpose of existence after that? He is not mine. Swami Chirutarna, he is not my student. He is college student. He is not my student. Swami has said it. We should not become, in the end, we should not get that kind of a distancing from Swami. He is mine. Swami should with pride pull us together towards himself and say, mine. He should take the rights over us. There are no limitations of time or space for the establishment of oneself in the contemplation of the omnipresent Lord. There is nothing like a holy place or a special time for this. Whenever the mind revels in the contemplation of the divine, that is the auspicious moment. Wherever the mind dwells upon the Lord, that is the holy place. Then and there one must meditate upon the Lord. That is why it has been declared, na kalaniyamo yatra, na deshasya stalasya cha, yatrasya ramate chittam, tatra dhyanameva kevalam. For meditation on the Lord, there is no fixed time or place. When and where the mind so desires, then and there is the time and place. Yatrasya ramate chittam, tatra dhyanena kevalam. There is no need for time and a space for this. Oh, special time only. Yes, it is important that in the beginning we maintain some kind of a discipline. That if we fixed a time, we meditate at that moment. But suppose the time is finished. Then what do? Today, for some reason I became late, so I will meditate tomorrow because Swami has said same time we should meditate. So I will meditate tomorrow. No, not like that. When you take some medication, morning and evening you have to take a medication. Sometimes you may forget to take the medication. So then they will give, the doctors will tell you that as soon as you remember you take, and then continue taking the rest of the doses as per schedule. That's what they will say. Whenever you remember you take. So 7:30 I have to meditate, but today I was busy so I could not meditate. Therefore I will meditate tomorrow 7:30. Well, 9:30 you meditate, doesn't matter. Yatrasya ramate chittam. Then and there, wherever the mind goes towards the Lord, anganga samadhi. There itself samadhi. Yatra yatra mano yatra. Tatra tatra samadhi. Wherever the mind goes, there itself, where it goes and engages itself into the Lord, then and there itself you engage in samadhi. There is no time and place niyama for it. Na deshasya, na kalanayamo yatra, na deshasya stalasya cha. There is no restriction in terms of time and space for the contemplation of God. Somebody asked Ramana Bhagavan, what is the best time to meditate? Bhagavan said, whenever you feel like meditating, that is the best time. Otherwise, I feel like meditating now, but it is not the right time. Brahma Muhurtam I have to wait. So then I will not meditate. Brahma Muhurtam, you are fast asleep. So at least you can meditate whenever you feel like meditating. It is better. If you can also get upon Brahma Muhurtam and meditate, good for you. But if you cannot, at least when you can, you can. This is better than not at all. We should not look for excuses in sadhana. You should not be looking for excuses. You should not behave like small children. Small children, what do? They have to study. They'll find numerous excuses. Pencil lead is broken. I cannot write homework. It's paining here. I cannot write. Mosquito bit me here. I cannot write homework. I got injection in my left hand. I cannot write with my right hand. Children will find excuses to not, especially to write. They will find excuses to not write. Why are they asked to write? It is good for them. But because they do not realize it, that is why they are children. Their minds are not developed. Their intelligence is not yet fully developed. This is for my good, and therefore I should write. But when they realize it, now later on you may practice handwriting. When you grow up and become an adult, you will see somebody with good handwriting. Hey, I will also write. You may write. Out of your own interest, you will write. But the same thing when as a child you are told to write, no, I don't want to write, and you will find numerous excuses to not write. That is a childish mentality. Your bodies have grown to become adults. Should not your brains also try and keep pace? You should be childlike in your heart. Don't be childlike in your brain. That is dangerous. It is not enough. Have childlike hridayam, innocence, all those things. But brain also should not be like that of a child, where I do not even know what is good for me and I find excuses to get away from it. What is the use in that? When it is good for me, when I know it is right for me, then no matter what difficulty I have got to undergo, no matter how much I am inconvenienced by it, I will still do it because I know it is good for me. That is the sign of growing up. That is the sign of maturity. So don't find excuses in sadhana. You are not doing anybody a favor. Sometimes when people cannot attend satsang, they will come and tell me, I'm sorry, I apologize, but I won't be able to attend the satsang. And I always tell them, you are not doing me a favor by attending, and you are not doing me some kind of a harm by not attending. Please realize you are doing yourself a favor by attending. So you don't have to apologize to me that you cannot attend satsang. It is nothing to me. You are the person that is going to gain. Whether you are there or not, I am going to talk. So I am not losing anything. So why are you apologizing to me? I am not at all at a loss. You are at a loss. So don't find excuses for yourself in attending in sadhana or satsang, etc. Whatever the case may be, as much as possible, unless it is absolutely unavoidable, this is ultimately the only thing that is going to do good to you. You are sacrificing the one thing that can do good to you for the sake of all those things that previously Swami said will only bring you spiritual downfall. How is this logical to me? In what manner and way is this? If we do not know about it, it is a different story. If we are ignorant of it, it is a different story. We know. Knowing, how can we be lax? Knowing it, how can we not be disciplined? What else is going to help us but this? This is the only thing that is going to take us across this samsara sagara, filled with so much of repetitive joys and sorrows. The world can achieve prosperity through disciplined souls whose hearts are pure. Iti sarvanishta garistulai, sarvasara sahitulai, antakarna shuddhigaligina varalavalla, lokamu kshemamu kalugagaladu. Iti sarvanishta garistulai, with those who are one-pointed in this truth, disciplined, whose heart is filled with that kind of a discipline. Sarvasara sahitulai. In English, it has been translated as those who are the salt of the earth. I'm thinking, what does that even mean? That is why I had to go back to the Sanskrit, the Telugu version of Swami. Sarvasara sahitulai, those who are the salt of the earth. Sarva Sara Sayutale, those who have understood the Sara, the Sara of everything. What is the Sara of everything? Bhagavan is the Sara of everything. If you do not understand that Sara of everything, you will be filled only with sorrow in everything. Sarva Sara is Bhagavan, otherwise it will be Sarva sorrow. Everything will be sorrowful only. Bhagavan is the Rasa. Sara is Rasa. Sara means essence. Rasa also means essence. If you turn Sara around, it becomes Rasa. Raso Vaisaha. Bhagavan alone is the Rasa. Rasa Swarupa. Rasa means not the rasam that you eat with rice. Rasa, saram, essence. What is the essence? Bhagavan is the essence. So those whose hearts are pure and are filled with this essence that is God, if they attempt, then the world can achieve prosperity. In an attempt to promote the welfare of the world, from this very minute, everyone should pray for the advent of such holy men, should try to deserve the blessings of the great, and should try to forget the sufferings of the day. Forget the sufferings of the day. Anyway, there are sufferings. Forget them. Instead, how can you forget them? If you give something else to the mind to engage, it can forget the suffering of the day. Otherwise, it will go back to the sufferings of the day only. So give something worthwhile for it. Give a goal for it. Give something that it can work towards. What is it working towards, Abrina? Understanding this truth, working for the welfare of this world, praying for the advent of holy ones to come, praying for the advent of the avatara itself. With that, Swami brings the serialized text of Prema Vahini to a close. Like every other Shastra, like every other scripture, the validity of Prema Vahini is also only when we understand it and practice it. You have to apply it, put it into practice. We've all been hearing so much that Swami has crammed into this little text. Repeatedly, again and again, the essence of it though is only this much. The goal of life is God, do not forget it. And then there's a lot of things to help us not forget it. He speaks about the transitoriness of the world. He speaks about the inevitability of death and so on. All of that is what is going to keep us remembering Him. This is first. Second, how do we accomplish that goal, Avadena? The only way you can do it is if you get rid of your ego and selfishness, ahankara, mamakara. How do you do that? By conquering raga and dvesha. How do you do that? By cultivating deep, abiding, divine prema towards the Lord. How do you do that? By connecting to Him and calling out His name. How do you maintain that discipline? Have a fixed time, have a fixed name and form. Make a conscious attempt to connect to Him using that name, using that form, using that time, knowing at the same time that there are no limitations of time and space for Him. All times are good to think about Him, but constant remembrance of Him, meaning giving Him the ultimate importance alone, can get us there. We've just got a little explanation of the salt of the earth. The phrase derives from Jesus' Sermon on the Mount, "You are the salt of the earth." To be salt means to deliberately seek to influence the people in one's life by showing them the unconditional love of Christ through good deeds. Very nice. Perfect example. That is what we also have to do. To be the salt of the earth means to show everyone, to wish everyone's welfare by showing them the glory of the Lord by our own deeds, our own life. Adan to be the salt of the earth. So let us, from this moment onwards, as we have resolved several times in the past, once again make a resolve. Doesn't matter. Something we have been doing. Everything adds up to it. Every little thing counts. Every little thing adds. Nahi kalyanakrit kaschit durgatim tata gacchati. Bhagavan says in the Gita, the doer of good in spirituality will never lose out. There is no loss here. Svalpamapyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. Even a little bit that is done adds up and ultimately goes and contributes towards the overall score. So, let us resolve once again that we will live up to Swami's teachings, that we will put it into practice, that we will remember we are not the bodies, we will remember we are the self. We will not unnecessarily become attached to it and constantly be working only towards selfishly fulfilling the desires of the body. Instead, we will be dedicating ourselves to Bhagavat Seva, Bhagavat Kaikarya. Praying to Swami that he will grant us more and more opportunities to talk about him, to bring his teachings to light, to revel and bask in his glories. Praying to Swami that he will also give us the strength and the capacity to practice his teachings. We will bring this Prema Vahini to a close. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramaya, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschid dukkha bhag bhavet, loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu, loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Shri Sai Ishwararpanamastu.